figured I'm gonna do my spiritual practice and stay true in my energy and do a blowjob. Because why not? Still under development, one might say. I have no idea. I've never shouted after one of those breath holders, and I've never held my breath for that long after shouting the horn. Let me just talk to you about why I blew the horn in the first place. You see, we call the horn of might, or the frequency elevator. Because I am an elevation coach, or a frequency elevator, or a psychedelic integration, or a guide of cosmological purposes, or a multidimensional advisor, whatever you want to label it as. Some people even say shaman, I don't know. It helps me. In the horn of might, you see, you blow your horn, and you can have a inauthentic where you can't get the horn to sound off, or you can have one of those that just, it changes the energy. It raises you up. You can't not, because you're feeling the vibrations, right? So when you go through that process of blowing it, you might have noticed it just took a while. In that little span of time, I actually died a little bit. And when you go through that feeling, like a drowning feeling, you get to a void, a blackness. You get to a space of complete, and then you hear your heart. It's like Joe Dispenza. You do 20 minutes of air practices, breathing techniques, clenching your anus, all those things to bring that power up to your head, and you're forcing it. It's like, right? And then you hold your breath and you breathe out, and you hold your breath and you breathe in, and you do that again, and blah, blah, blah. After the end, or at the end, you are feeling your heart. So you can focus on the heart, and you can now listen to the guy saying, feel your heart. And he was like, holy shit, I can feel it. Whew, that's weird. And then all of a sudden, you get aware that that is a thing, and you can start to see what you can do with the thing. So focusing and just being present and bringing awareness, and then knowing where you want to go, you kind of create that from the energy of that void, and the picture gets really clear. You can feel it. Some probably can see it. Other can hear it. Someone can smell it. Other people are just there and they can't really come back from it. There's a lot of ways to perceive it, right? As there is with our multidimensional reality, or just the fact that everyone has their own. But when you blow the horn like that, that heart is starting to thump while you're blowing in the horn. So when you're done, and I don't know how many seconds it took, but when you're done, you have that same state. And so when I pull my breath back in and I just hold it, I hear my heart again. I cannot avoid it. It's like, it was like a freaking army coming up to just muster up, shield wall, right? I could just hear it, see it, feel it, just everything. It was a rhythm. It was like, it's a frequency. And then as I held it, my heartbeat went down. It calmed down. It got really leveled. And then I was like, all right, we got this, right? I have no idea how long I was holding my breath for, but when I was done, I felt like, let's do a little war cry at the end. And then, voila, frequency elevated. It's not that problematic, or it's not that complicated, but we don't do the thing. We don't do the spew. I might just as well go into this. I talked about a thing that became a philosophy, a way of life, a invisible compass, not to take away anything of the genius that Lauren Zavlunov had in her creation of the podcast, The Invisible Compass. Highly recommended. But it is a compass. It's a moral compass, right? Ehsalese. In Hindi, or in Asas, in Hindi, Asas is the word for feeling. I'm sure I'm not saying it correctly, but I tried. And then in Norwegian, the word følelse is the same thing. It's Asas and følelse, both meaning feeling. And so me and my good friend V. Acharya, Venkatesh Acharya, I have always had a small issue saying your name, but we call him V. And I love the dude. We were talking and we said, what is the feeling that is higher than high and whiter than white and more happy than happy? And just that very clear soul pluck of the string, the boom, 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 when you're just going towards something, you're getting pulled towards something. What is that feeling? And we both kind of thought about this for a long time, and we couldn't really get a good answer for that. It's like, okay, it's a feeling. Why complicate it? Right? So he said Asas, I said følelse. Asas, følelse, Ehsalese, is that a word? And then we found out very soon, because we were both avid Googlers, it's not a word. It doesn't exist until we said it. And then it became something. So it just evolved from there. It was an idea, and it just turned into something completely more expansive, because it didn't change. It was that core essence of the thing, but it kind of evolved into more. So we figured there is a way to get to that feeling. There's like a process. You can do things. It's like you were talking about something. You're spewing words. What do you call that? Are you doing the do? Or are you just spewing the spew? Are you walking your talk? Or are you talking about someone else walking? Do the spew! Right? So I don't know how we ended up at do the spew, but I have this documented somewhere. But we figured, do the spew. Do what you say. Like, for fuck's sake, if you're saying something, don't completely just go on repeat. Because what the fuck is... There's no help in that. Do the spew. You're saying something, do it. And then do it. And then do it. And it's like, if you face those fears, those barriers, those complications, those challenges, whatever you might have because there's a lot of things, it is like the root. Instead of how we are now labeling mental disease with 72 different variables, we could go back to when it was like hurt, healed, or healthy. Why complicate it? So do the spew. And when you have gone through those, and you have done the spew, and you have done that for a long time, and you're starting to feel that whole Ehsalese sensation, we figured, what do you call the past tense do the spew? How about you did the spew? Spewed it? Spewed it. You spewed it? You did the spew? Spew did? All right, I think that we have something there. All right. So if you spewed it enough times, you're going to have a state of Ehsalese at some point. So it just continued. It evolved. It just took on a different life of its own. I started to talk about Ehsalese. I started to talk about these things in terms of how I do the ceremonies, because I thought I was crazy. But then I did it with one person, my brother, and then I tried it again, and we expanded the group. And then the first frickin' ceremony, I saw that this is too powerful. This is too powerful. We have to contain it. Like, what the... It's not good. So what happened then is I didn't do more. I kind of put a lid on it, because I saw that people who were not ready to contain the energy completely fucked up their entire trajectory. It's like they felt something, they couldn't really define it. So now they went out there and they talked about having that sensation, but it kind of weared off. And then they are always on the hunt for that sensation. But it started within. It was not something to be found externally. And so you see 3 different paths just going externally to find this answer of what they should have just been in from that ceremony. It was weird, really weird. And there's a huge story that has been documented over several years now that is going to really explain that, as long as I find an editor that is actually good at those things, because I suck. currently. I don't have the time or the energy or the willingness, because if you see something from a fresh perspective, you see it from a different thing. I don't see the forest for the trees, you know? I have too much insight in what this story has been, so I can explain it, but I can't really explain it creatively. I could, but you know what I mean. If you're an editor, hit me up. So basically, I lost the trail. No, these ceremonies, and I tried to document these ceremonies after that and just see, could I recreate it? And it got recreated every single fucking time. And it was my personal individual journey, which I hoped was kind of a collective one, because I came up there with partners and other people who said they understood, they saw the same thing, and they wanted to do something to get there, right? And I figured, yeah, finally I don't have to do everything alone. But they didn't see it. They had shadows. They had a whole bunch of things that they had to deal with, and it became more of a full-time therapist job for my sake. Like, I couldn't really focus on myself and what I had to do. I've never had a trip sitter. I've never been able to really focus on what it was that we found, and that has completely changed my life. So it's interesting then to sit on all these things, to be able to explain this emotion, this sensation, this moral code, this compass, whatever you want to call it. Sit on this and not being able to share it, because so many people had so many assumptions, so many associations, and just so much. There were so many ways of seeing it, and I was like, oh shit, is that how you see it? I started to give a crap about what they said, right? Which was flaw number one. Like, that is for a fact one of those most detrimental things you can do. Listening to other people who have not had the experience you're trying to tell yourself, basically. You're trying to understand something that nobody can help you understand, and so they come at you with their advice. You know the drill. It's one of the worst things. But time went by so slowly. 2 years later, I had a lot of context to come with this. Like, people who were at the ceremony had kind of rejected and denounced the whole entire thing that got them there, because they had received this egoic awakening, so they could go in and see that now they are the healer, they are the teacher, they can go out and preach, and good. But it is painful to watch your students, if you will call it that, seeing that how they are trying to teach what they didn't pay attention to, kind of. It's like they got it, and then they forgot it because they were searching for something externally, and now they're completely on a road towards pain and suffering, because you can see where they are. You know these people, and you can sense, and you can... It's one of those common things. If you see things from a outside perspective, you know what I mean? So you see the pain, and you see how they're still doing the thing, clinging to this dream that it was the right answer, right? And it is the right answer. It's just a little tweak. Turn it from my journey and my thing and my teachings and my help and me. I love me. I'm so good at me. I can teach me all day. Like, listen to me. All these things. And preaching, instead of doing. It's like, it's fascinating. It has fascinated the hell out of me. And here I am at the end or the beginning of a chapter after a long journey, where I have documented everything to be able to kind of see the context myself, that I could understand that, okay, phew, started to wonder if it was my fault there for a minute, right? But people have their own journeys. They have their own perspectives. They have their own shadows, their own demons, their whatever you want to call it, their own trauma, their own pain, their own fear. All these things, everyone have their thing that they have to face. And it's their responsibility, to be honest, to face that. And then be humble enough to ask for help if you need that. Many people are like, no, you should listen to me, actually. Not sure why, because I did ayahuasca like 76 times, and I should know why but I know more than you, right? It's interesting. It is so interesting to see all these painful perspectives. That's why I had to do the energy frequency elevation, the horn, because it just gets me into that new state of consciousness, being able to put my boundaries down, because me not allowing that boundary to be up and just allowing everyone else to take my energy and just take my time and take my value and all that stuff and not give anything back? Like, how long can you do that? How long can you keep pouring the glass till it's empty? Right? Wasn't supposed to be any drops in there, but there you go. You have to fill it back up, and that's impossible when people don't see that they're seeing you as a golden meal ticket. But I am one of those people who needs the experience. I have to go in and really feel it before I actually learn from it. And when I have felt it for long enough, I know exactly how it is to navigate the contrast, and then I can go back into the other side of that contrast, or the other side of the spectrum, because literally just doing the opposite. If you have allowed people to take your energy, then stop that. You know, it's very simple. But we don't say that out loud. We don't put down the boundaries. We allow people to step on us. We don't allow ourselves to be the person we need to be in order to give what we have to give to this reality. That's why it's hard for me to be at two camps at the same time. To talk to people about normal things is very hard for me when I'm standing with the other leg in a completely different reality and I can see where they're coming from. You can't just say whatever you want to say because they're not ready to get that yet. And still, you can't denounce your family. Well, someone can, because not everyone is a golden child or loved or all these things. I've been talking about this for a lot of time, like hours just today and yesterday and before. It seems like these things are just popping up when they need to be talked about. The pain of being neglected and going through the upbringing and all these things. Like, we came from a generation that learned what they could from their generation. It has been like that for thousands of years. It's up to us to put down the boundaries that we might have been taught are wrong to put up. You know, your bully is just feeling bad for himself, or is pained, is hurt because they don't have a very nice life at home, or whatever. We're taught to kind of praise the bad in many ways, and I think it's our job to say that it doesn't have to be like that, and show why, instead of just, you shouldn't be like that. Be exactly who you want to be, just not like that. You know, it's stupid, it's contradicting, it's paradoxical, it's detrimental to humanity, to be honest, but it's not my place to say, to be honest. Right now I need to go out and practice some more. Take in the night sky. Thank you for listening to the story about Ehsalese, the Horn of Might, and frequency elevation, brought to you by Torsapola, frequency elevator and coach at thelegacyforge.com. I have too much fun, right? When you're in the flow, you're in the flow. So with that, I wish you adieu, and I hope that you're having a fantastic day, and take care of your freaking family, and I'll see you in the next one. If you want to be part of the core, which is not for the faint of heart, not for the faint of wallet, then you need to reach out, because we're talking about things that is changing the fucking reality. Keywords just before I hang up. We're going to talk about innovation in psychedelics. We're going to talk about multidimensional realities. We're going to talk about how we can bridge those gaps into 3D, AI, and artificial intelligence-driven other technology. Whatever comes from us creating what we know how to create, because we are aware enough to see the possibilities that are out there. We don't know what we don't know, so we sit down with insanely interesting people like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan. You heard it here first. Kind of didn't, because I've said that for so many times. We're going to talk to those ilk. When you have creators, innovators, and just expanded thinkers at the same table, and you start talking about actual solutions and interesting concepts and going through why that is interesting and just having that same frequency and why you're doing that, magic is created. Believe it. If you don't, that's not my problem. But I'm not going to take up more of your time. You have given me more than enough, so thank you for that. thelegacyforce.com/AC if you want to see the antechamber for the core. But there will be a video on this, of course. I'm just saying, we have something pretty epic. People should be made aware. Peace in, peace out.